Hello, welcome to Assessment and Evaluation Tips. This is part of our Universal Design for Learning video library series. Assessment and evaluation are some of the most difficult parts of the instructional process. How do you do it fairly? Let's talk about what assessment and evaluation really means. It's important to remember that assessment is an ongoing process throughout your instruction, demonstration, or project involvement. You are assessing whether students are engaged, are learning, and whether any students are having difficulty. Evaluation generally comes at the end of a unit, lesson, or project. Next, we're going to discuss accommodations and modifications that you can use in your instruction, assessment, and evaluation. Accommodations and modifications are not the same. One type of support is an accommodation, which is a change that helps the student overcome or work around a learning difference or difficulty. A modification, however, is a change in what is being taught to or expected from the student. It's another type of support a student with a learning difficulty may receive. Accommodations are generally environmental or physical and allow the student to work around their learning and physical disability. These are some examples. A student who is having trouble writing might be able to take a test orally. A student who is easily distracted could be allowed to take a test in a quiet environment. A student who is bothered by noise could wear headphones, extending time on tests or assignments, and having preferred seating assignments. These are all samples of accommodations. Modifications are generally connected to instruction and assessment. Things can be tangibly changed or modified. Usually a modification means a change in what is being taught or expected from the student. So some examples of this is a reduction of classwork or homework, using an easier reading level, simplifying vocabulary or content, using pictures or diagrams rather than words, and changing a homework or class assignment such as building a model rather than writing an essay. Sometimes making small changes can make a huge difference to a struggling learner. Modifications are just that, changes to make the task easier. A reduction of classwork might be breaking down a task into its component parts and asking the struggling student to learn only the first part of the task on a given day. This slide reviews and provides more ideas for accommodations when assessing or evaluation. What are some other ways of determining if your students are learning or have learned the subject matter that they've been taught? Some students may know the material you've taught but can't get it down on paper. That doesn't mean that they can't do a particular task, so how can you find out what they've learned? The simplest accommodation is having someone read the test to the students or to allow the students to dictate the responses. Sometimes students with a history of reading and writing difficulties respond better to having the assessment administered orally. There are individuals who get very distracted or uncomfortable when asked to do a task on the computer. Could you have them do a pencil and paper format? Or perhaps they work better on a computer or iPad. Anxiety is a very real concern for many learners when evaluated, especially when there's a time limit. On the other hand, they may need extra time because their written language skills are slower. Finally, you might consider assessing students by having them perform a task that requires a good understanding of what you have taught. So these are some examples of evaluation and assessment accommodations. Reading the text for students who have trouble reading, providing oral projects or tests for students who have trouble reading and writing, being allowed to take a test on the computer or being allowed to use pencil and paper, extending time for students who have difficulty writing or who are anxious, performance evaluations when a student has language difficulties, or taking a test in a quiet environment. Another assessment tool that is particularly well matched to vocational education is a rubric. So what is a rubric? I bet you've seen one. They're usually a grid-type structure and includes criteria, levels of performance, scores, and descriptors, which become unique assessment tools for any given assignment. Let's look at an example. Rubric-based assessments should be used for the entire class and are consistent with the principles of universal design and learning. A rubric is a set of criteria used for assessing a particular type of work or performance. It provides more details than a single grade, and rubrics help you grade more objectively. Rubrics are particularly useful for vocational classes, which are typically project-based, and they allow both learners and instructors to know exactly what's expected. As you can see, the performance criteria on the left side of the chart, the rating scale is across the top, and the description of the indicators or expectations are described explicitly. Think about how you can apply it to your projects in class. Designing your own rubric. And then if you look at the criteria identify the trait, feature, or dimension which is to be measured, and include a definition and example to clarify the meaning of each trait being assessed. So set your own criteria based on your task. You may have your criteria uses tools safely, uses tools properly, listens during instructional lectures, uses times wisely. You would then identify the various levels of performance. A benefit of building rubrics is that they give information ahead of time to students so that they know what's expected of them for a particular task or project. They also help you decide what's important to you and to articulate your expectations clearly for you and for the students. Using the levels of performance. The levels of performance are based on the degree of performance which has been met and provide for consistent and objective assessment and better feedback to students. These levels tell students what they're expected to do. These are performance indicators. As you can see, these describe the expectations of the instructor for each criteria. If your criteria was tool safety, you might say demonstrates using tools safely with no prompting. Another one could be demonstrates using tools safely with minimum prompting from the instructor. Uses tools safely with significant prompting. Does not use tools safely. The scoring across the top can be points, it can be numbers or letter grades, whatever you feel is most useful for you. Diversifying what's in your assessment and evaluation toolbox allows your students a better chance of demonstrating their knowledge. In summary, it's important to remember that accommodating and modifying for learning differences allows for greater success for the students and you. Accommodations change the environment, not the task, and may be used individually or for the whole class. Modifications are usually provided on an individual or group basis. Rubrics are an effective way to evaluate for the entire class. So thank you for joining us for this part of the Universal Design Learning series. If you have any feedback for us, feel free to connect in with our survey using this QR code. We look forward to hearing from you, and please join us for our next video in the video series.